Alrighty guys, welcome back. So today Mabel and I are going to be heading out to this absolutely incredible fire lookout to do a product shoot. But along the way, I want to answer the question of what are the biggest pros and cons of getting into the photography industry as a professional in 2025. And then towards the end of the video, I'm going to be giving you some of my biggest tips and advice that I give to every photographer who reaches out to me on how to secure your first clients, how to get to pricing, and the things I think you need to focus on early on if you want to be successful as a professional photographer. Let's get into it. Alrighty guys, so getting right into it, my name is Nathan Slayer. I'm a professional action sports and documentary filmmaker, and I've been shooting photo or video professionally for about 5 years now. And today we have Mabel, who's going to be joining us for the video.
Hey guys, so stoked to be here. I have been getting into documentary film and photography as well as the portrait side of things, so super stoked to be here and a part of this.
And today we're going to be kind of answering the question of what are some of the pros and cons of getting into professional photography in 2025, 2026? How has the industry been changing? And what are some of the things to expect if you're trying to get into shooting professionally going into 2026?
Yeah, let's get into it.
Okay, so one of the first big pros that honestly I didn't expect at this point in time is that there's actually a larger separation happening between amateurs and professional photographers. When digital photography first kind of hit the scene and there was a widespread array of digital DSLRs, everybody had a Rebel. It kind of seemed for a moment like there was going to be a lack of separation, that almost anybody would be able to pick up a camera and go out and shoot something, and the need for dedicated professional photographers would diminish. But at this point, every brand has had a bad experience hiring somebody who doesn't know what they're doing, doesn't have a professional business plan, and doesn't know how to execute on set. And so there's actually becoming a larger divide as more hobbyists transition back to film photography and kind of hobby or vintage cameras, and professionals go towards the higher end of the mirrorless, the full frames. And as that divide increases, there's a larger divide between amateurs and professionals, which for you is going to be a really good thing.
The one big downside to getting into the industry right now is it is such a saturated market with so many amazing artists that are really good at what they do. So it's really intimidating to go out and try and find your own special niche. But that goes to show the importance of doing what you love and finding what you love.
Expanding further into that, I think that level of diversity is a huge pro and something that's kind of newer to the industry. In that a couple years back, there was kind of this standardization where brands all wanted these super clean, professional looking images. But now, as we kind of suffer from an authenticity crisis with the overwhelming amount of AI and just how easy it is to produce those really clean images, more brands are looking for something unique to set them apart. So if you're a photographer that specializes in just film photography, somebody will pay you to do it. If you want to specialize in just light painting or underwater photography or deep fried, over the top, obnoxious film looks, somebody out there is into that and wants you shooting that for their brand. We're already seeing brands like North Face and Patagonia doing these shoots that are out of focus, blurry, there's motion blur, there's all this grain effect, all right? They are looking for something unique. So whatever your niche is, there's a space for it. And I think that's a pretty incredible thing that's relatively new to the industry, or at least is becoming more prevalent in the photography and videography industry.
The big downside to that is it is a lot more computer work, editing, file management, business, networking than it is actually going out and doing what you love, which can overall lead to being very expensive and very overwhelming. At the end of the day, you are running a business first and creating second.
All right, and I think that the business side of things is worth diving into way further, because at the end of the day, making contracts, meeting clients, networking, doing billables, all of that sort of stuff is what actually makes you your money, but it takes far more time than going out on a shoot and creating. I spend a lot more time just negotiating with clients and doing client management than I actually spend creating. And that's the unfortunate side of this, is that if you go into a business to do what you love, you end up taking what you love and turning it into a business. Now, there is a pro in here somewhere, which is that the content marketing industry as a whole is booming. So if you're getting into it to make money doing what you love, there is a lot of money to be made. Okay, the content marketing industry was valued at a little over $400 billion in 2022 and is estimated to be worth almost $2 trillion by 2032. So if you get into the space, you find your niche, and you put in the time and effort to build a sustainable and effective business model, then it's absolutely something that can be extremely successful.
But as you get into this industry, it is really frustrating to see how many people are getting to where they are just from the amount of people they know and just from shooting for a really long time, not from the quality of their work. It really is an industry with a lot of nepotism and a lot of long-standing connections.
All right, so those are all of the pros and cons I see for anybody getting into the photo or professional photography industry in 2025 and going into 2026. But these last 2 points, I'm not really sure whether they're a pro or a con, and it's going to kind of come down to your personal preferences. And the first one is that whether you like it or not, you're likely going to have to become a creator, because brands are looking at your Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, blog, all of these different platforms to determine whether your personality falls in line with their branding and marketing goals and whether they want you to be a public representative of their brand. So that's kind of a pro for some people who it comes naturally to, but for others, they don't want to maintain a 7-day-a-week social media feed in order to be able to get contracts that pay. So just be aware of that your digital presence as a whole is now a part of your application for every single contract and job that you apply to going forward as a photographer. The second point, very much in line with that, is whether you like it or not, if you're going into photography nowadays, you are likely going to have to get into video work. The photography market is still there. It will probably always be there as people need to update their newsletters, their websites, their print media. But at the same time, that industry is shrinking while the video industry continues to grow. Whether it's on your phone, raw user-generated content to professionally produced ads for television, there's a huge range and almost everybody has to get involved with that. Back 10 years ago, you could post just photos on Instagram and it would push those organically and you could see growth just through photos. Nowadays, that's an afterthought. The video industry and the video content drives a much higher conversion rate and much higher audience retention. So what brands are looking for is predominantly video focused now. So once again, that could be a pro or a con for you. There's a lot more money to be made in video work. And if you want to get into video with such a wide range, you can. However, on the other hand, some people really hate the process of editing and all of that. And so if video isn't your focus, well, it might be something that you just have to do in order to succeed, or something in which you have to carve out a niche specifically in photo while avoiding the much larger video market. All right, guys, so I promised that I would leave you guys with my biggest tip for new photographers, as well as answer the question that I get answered the most. And this is, how much should I charge? Now, I get asked this question almost nonstop. I get it asked in my Instagram DMs. I get it asked in comments. I get it asked all over the place. And every single time that somebody asks me this question, I go, can I see your portfolio? Can I see, a sample album? Something like that. And usually the conversation seems to end there. All right. So first off, my biggest tip is to focus 100% early on building your portfolio. Every single day that you do not have a shoot lined up, pick a product that you already own and go out and shoot it. All right. Do this both for practice, but because all of those sample shoots with products you already own are both a gateway to getting contracts by showing those to that brand, but also they become the sample albums that make up your portfolio. Now, my favorite example of this is I have this everyday carry from CRKT. I took it out, I did a whole sample shoot for them, and then they sent me a bunch of our products to shoot, and it was just a ton of fun to do the sample shoot. It's one of my favorite things to shoot. It built my portfolio in the direction that I wanted it to, and it allowed me to do another shoot going forward, as well as secure contracts with similar brands that saw that sample album and then wanted something similar. So early on, focus 100% on your portfolio, your experiences, and the confidence that a client has in your ability to deliver is how much you can charge. If you have a portfolio that screams, I can get this done, and you can trust me to get this done, then you can charge anything. But if they have to guess whether or not you're actually going to be able to follow through on the vision, and whether or not they might have to either redo your work, hire someone else, or essentially safeguard against you failing, then you have no negotiating power when you go to talk to them about pricing. So getting into how much to actually charge, this is a part where I would recommend talking to other photographers. Now, a lot of people seem to be way too scared to socialize with strangers, but photographers, in my experience, have been very open and friendly about their experience. Now, there's always the ones who won't share anything with you, but honestly, just avoid them, all right? There are plenty of photographers out there who are totally open to taking you on a shoot to help out. They are open to giving you some of their contract structures, open to sharing with you how they secured their first clients. Talk to them, because pricing in every single area, region, and industry is going to be different. Okay, so it's impossible for me to give you a set number, and it's impossible for you to pull numbers from some reel from some wedding photographer and use those numbers. You need to look for people in a similar space offering a similar contract structure and then go from there. Your experience will grow over time, and those prices will grow over time. All you really need is a starting number early on. So I'll give ours. Early on, we were charging $650 for a day shoot with 30 assets. Now, since then, it's scaled significantly, and we don't offer large batch day shoots like that anymore, ever. However, that's where we started from. And when we realized that that was too much time, too much editing, and too much cost on our end, then we were able to adjust our pricing and contract structure going forward in order to expand the business. So you need a starting point. That starting point can be really hard to find, but talk to other photographers and please build your portfolio before you try to go secure clients. All right, guys. And so with that, if you learned anything in this video, or if you just enjoyed watching, give us a like and subscribe. We are trying really hard to build this channel. If you've been following us for a while now, you might notice that we don't really post that often, mostly because Mabel and I are constantly traveling and working on different projects. And the YouTube channel honestly just is a loss leader. We don't make any money on this really, compared to the amount of time and effort that it takes. So if we want to put out more videos, we need to grow the channel to a point where it's more sustainable. And so every single like, subscribe, comment goes a really, really long ways towards us being able to get another video out sooner. If you want to follow along with our work, we're both on Instagram. You can check out what we're doing in the documentary space or setting up for the winter season. And lastly, I hope everybody has a great day, and we'll see you guys next time.